in the skies over Israel right now. Listen to that. It says the IDF continues to make preparations for a ground invasion into Gaza. Trey Yingst is live in northern Israel with the latest. Trey.
Yeah, Kaylee, good afternoon. We've been following the developments here near to the Gaza border, and I can tell you that over the past 3 weeks, we've heard nothing like we are hearing tonight. We've seen nothing like we are seeing tonight. There is a specific effort underway right now by the Israeli military to strike targets in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, not only from the air, but also the ground and the sea. We've seen artillery units active here. You just heard off in the distance there. That's fire going into Gaza. We've seen 155 millimeter cluster rounds raining down on the northern part of the Strip. The Navy is shelling. And I just want you to listen to that there. It gives you a sense of just how heavy these airstrikes are. They are shaking the ground here near to the Gaza border. Kaylee?
Trey, no doubt. I mean, you said that's the heaviest you've heard, and heaviest certainly we've heard here on the couch. You spoke to the Israeli defense minister, and he said to you it's not a question of weeks as it pertains to the ground invasion, but a question of months as to how long they'll be in there. And he said, quote, "We are close." Do you think this could be the beginning of the ground invasion?
I don't want to speculate on if this is the beginning of the ground invasion, but it is certainly the heaviest fire that we've seen. And traditionally, when armies will enter on the ground, they will soften the target ahead of time. And so this is exactly the type of fire that you would see before a ground operation. The artillery fire in the distance, the naval shelling, and then those airstrikes all up and down the Gaza Strip. We should note there are still thousands of infantry troops along the border. They have been conducting limited nighttime raids over the past 48 hours. The Israelis say they destroyed a number of Hamas and Islamic Jihad cells along the border and also anti-tank guided missile positions. Remember, the Israelis are very concerned they will be immediately ambushed by the factions inside Gaza when they do enter the Strip. And so part of what they're doing right now is trying to clear out the area, ensure that they will be able to enter as well as possible and not get ambushed by these cells along the border. The Israelis are preparing for what is expected to be months of bloody urban battle. There's an understanding not just from the highest level, the defense minister who we talked with earlier today face-to-face in Tel Aviv, but also the Israeli colonels on the ground, the infantry troops that we've been talking to and texting with, trying to get a sense of what they're worried about before they enter Gaza. They understand this will be a very challenging battle. They'll face roadside bombs and IEDs. They will face ambushes and troops that are heavily armed with tunnel systems, guerrilla warfare taking place before their eyes. And so those airstrikes there serve as a way to soften the ground ahead of that possible ground operation. Kaylee?
Trey, it's Emily. It's my understanding you met with the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant this morning. What did you learn from that meeting?
And those strikes there just nonstop. If I pause, it's to let you listen to that because it really illustrates through sound the picture here on the ground. It is a significant development what we are seeing tonight. The constant barrage that we've seen in terms of rocket fire from Gaza, but also the bombardments from the air and from the ground. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant speaking with a group of just 6 journalists today in Tel Aviv. We spoke for, I would guess, around an hour and a half. We couldn't have our phones inside this room. It was a protected room from any sort of technology so that we couldn't record the conversation, but we could take notes. And the majority of the conversation was actually off the record. He discussed a lot of sensitive topics, also ground maneuvers and discussing the broader regional concerns that he has. But what we can give you, I got these quotes specifically cleared so I could bring them to our audience here. We talked about the timing of the ground operation, but what I found interesting, too, was the 4-point plan for the Israeli military. And he laid out that plan. And again, we got this confirmed. It's the first time we'll report this list here on air. He says the mission for the Israeli army is, in no particular order, to destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities along the Gaza Strip. Additionally, to return the hostages, 229 people that are being held inside Gaza, to secure Israel's southern arena where we're at right now, and then finally to deter Israel's adversaries in the region. And so the defense minister wanted to make clear there is a plan here, but the questions that we had for him often focused on what comes next. What happens after the Israelis enter Gaza? How long exactly will they stay inside the Strip? He said this is a matter of months, not weeks or days. And then who will govern after they destroy Hamas if they are successful in destroying this organization? And that part he wanted to remain off the record for. And eventually we will continue to report this out and try to get that information. But there are real regional questions here and questions about once the ground operation does begin and once those orders are given by the political and military echelon here in Israel, how the region will respond. Emily?
Trey, this is Kaylee. One more question for you. I was looking on your Twitter feed, and interestingly, I saw just yesterday you had posted something, and it was red alerts. And this was red alerts of Hamas launching rockets into Tel Aviv, and they were incessant. They seem to be coming up moment by moment. What can you tell us about the rockets coming in the other direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So 21 days into this conflict, they have maintained their ability to fire on major population centers across Israel. And this is significant because we are talking about thousands of airstrikes that have taken place since the massacre in southern Israel. They're firing rockets from the northern and central part of the Gaza Strip. Sirens are sounding in cities like Tel Aviv, Israel's second largest city, despite those airstrikes. And I just want to show you what it looks like on a phone here. This is a screen grab that I took, and you can see what it's like when rockets are coming in. It's constant notifications, one after the other, telling people to get to bomb shelters. Now, in communities here near to the Gaza border, really significant airstrikes here, and I paused to let you listen to them because this is unlike anything we have seen over the past several weeks, the past 3 weeks since this war began. But in terms of the rocket fire, here near to the border, you have about 10 seconds. And when we've been reporting live here on Fox, we are so close to Gaza that mortar fire can reach this location. So you'll notice if there are air raid sirens around here, we have just 10 seconds to respond. So we already have a plan in place. We drop our gear, we keep the camera running, and we get to a shelter. Cities like Tel Aviv have around a minute. And then every community in between has a different amount of time to get to a bomb shelter. But I want to talk quickly about the psychological trauma for Israelis living amid this conflict. There are young children who have to run to shelters. Their parents are trying to explain to them what's happening, and they are so terrified that the Israeli response service, the ambulance service across this country, has had to change the tone of their siren. So today when we were at that meeting in Tel Aviv, when we came out, we heard an ambulance, and it was a different tone than you would traditionally hear. And they do that so that people aren't mixing up the siren from an ambulance with a rocket siren telling them to head for shelter. The generational trauma that Hamas has inflicted on the Jewish people and the state of Israel should not be understated, because this country is at war. It is a country that understands what war is like. This is the 9th declared war since the founding of Israel. But it's not any easier for the Israeli people. And following that brutal massacre where 1,400 Israelis were slaughtered in their homes and on their bases near to the border, this country is in pain and they are still in shock.
Yeah,
Kaylee?
That trauma is unfathomable. And Trey, stay safe. These are, without a doubt, strikes like we have never heard. And as you've been speaking, we see Ashkelon, Israel, and we see those strikes in real time as well. Stay safe, Trey.